Hey, I'm Aubrey Zettler. This is my Guatemala 2017 personal reflexive video. So I figured I would start off talking about what impacted me the most during my course and the whole time I was in Guatemala. The biggest thing that I would take away from this trip was the relationships that I made with others, good and bad. I think that the change in comfortability with classmates, going not only out of the classroom with them, but out of the country with them, really showed people's true colors and how different personalities may mesh in good ways and in not so good ways. So that definitely impacted me, the different changes and bonding that I felt with the other students in my class. And a huge thing that impacted me during the study away in Guatemala was the fact that we were completely disconnected. Um, for the 4 days that we were in Los Andes, we had no phone service, no Wi Fi, no nothing, like no connection back to the United States. And I've been disconnected before, but not on that level. I've usually, had my phone die for a day or so, but I've been around my friends and family or had an ability to connect in other ways, like go to a home phone or get on the internet on a computer. But we had absolutely no connection when we were in Los Andes. And that made for some tough times because I ended up feeling very homesick due to the fact that I wasn't in contact with my parents, and they're like my best friends. So I still, regardless of the way that I was impacted because of those two things, I still had a really great time and doing other things, like the things that involved actually being in Guatemala with the Guatemalan people. For instance, seeing the different sites, going through the mountains and hiking and looking at the volcanoes and seeing the sunrise over the volcano. Being by Lake Atitlan, just the whole lake was gorgeous. Boating in it, swimming in it, everything was amazing. And honestly, even the cities were different in Guatemala than they are here, because you think city here and you think, Cincinnati, or similar to New York, where it's just a lot of fast paced, high class people, but the cities there were actually kind of older, and there was just a lot of street vendors, and I wouldn't say like poverty, but kind of. There was just a mix. Like, there was a mix of people who seemed like they were homeless and people who seemed like they were doing pretty well. So it was a kind of a cool combination to see that, and especially the street vendors all over the place, not only in the cities, but even in the little small towns, which made it hard for me to not want to buy every single thing there. And so something else that impacted me during this course was having the ability to just let go and try everything. I told myself when I was going that I'm going to be in a different country and I'm not going to probably get this opportunity again, so I'm going to take whatever I can take from it and just do whatever I wanted to do. So when it came to trying new foods, I made sure I tried everything, and I had, the opportunity to try things I did like and some things I didn't like. And I definitely made sure that if we had an opportunity to do something, I did it. So I was told that we could swim in Lake Atitlan, and so I swam in Lake Atitlan. Even though nobody else did, I still wanted to get to say that I got to do that. And just, that was probably one of the coolest, most spontaneous, adventurous things that I did. But then we went and fed monkeys, and even though it was a little intimidating and scary because the monkeys did not particularly like us, I still made sure to just try and make it as positive as I could. And I also did a couple things, like at night when we were camping, a couple people went out and we started doing zip lining. It was just like a small little zip lining swing, and that was super fun and interesting. And the last thing that I did that was kind of out of my comfort zone, that I wanted to make sure I just did anything and everything I could to make it the best time, was we were hanging out with the kids in Los Andes, and they were feeling kind of uncomfortable. So we thought we would play some American music for them and start dancing. And me and a couple of other people danced like complete fools. But we had such a great time, and even though we didn't really get the kids to feel any more comfortable, we still kind of just got out of our comfort zone and had a lot of fun with that. And then the last thing that impacted me when I was in Guatemala was trying to hold back my emotions, not only for my emotions towards other people and trying not to seem like a crybaby over everything, but also trying to hold back my emotions towards the way that animals are treated there. Not that animals are treated bad, but I don't think that they're respected as much, because I saw an amazing amount of stray dogs, and that was a very difficult thing to get used to, because I'm such an animal lover and I want to save every single bug and animal on the planet. So it's kind of hard for me to see dogs like that just roaming the streets, and some of them looking skinny as can be. Most of them had mange, and it's just really, really difficult to get past that. And coming back home, and it kind of made me appreciate when I came back home and saw the way that we treated our animals. The challenges and victories of the documentary process. So some challenges were the fact that we had to do pre-production while we were still in the United States, and that's difficult considering we didn't know who or what we would be filming necessarily when we got to Guatemala, and the fact that the people we were going to be filming spoke a different language than us. So that was kind of a big challenge for me. And then making sure that I had everything I needed before I was traveling. That was a huge thing, because I didn't want to overpack, I didn't want to underpack and miss something, because if you forget one thing, especially when it comes to filming, you could screw up your entire project. So packing was definitely a challenge, and then scheduling interviews once we were there, and finding the right locations to film. So being the producer of my films, it was important to make sure that I got people in different locations, and their locations pertained to what they were talking about. So just scheduling the interviews with those people, and especially because they spoke Spanish, so I would just be like, levántense, por favor, with the few words that I knew in Spanish. But either way, it still worked out. And then after all of that, the biggest victories that I feel I got out of this documentary process was that when we're starting to see it all come together, it's just an amazing feeling. It's great when you get a good interview. Even though I didn't really know what some people were saying, I could tell they were speaking with passion, and that they were feeling the emotions that they needed to feel to make sure that this documentary is the best it could be. So it was definitely not only great to see that come together when I was in Guatemala, but also being home now and starting to edit and everything, and seeing how that comes together is just the coolest thing ever. How I felt once I returned to the United States was a little weird, because I didn't really know how to interact with the rest of my classmates, considering the different feelings I had towards people. But I only had a slight sense of culture shock, in the sense of like outside of the classroom. I was overwhelmed by the amount of footage that I got, because I don't really have that many group members, and going through the amount of footage was just very difficult, because the school project is a pretty important one. So how I feel about the finished product, even though it's not finished, I would say I'm positive that with the lack of help I have, it's probably not going to be the best project I've done, but I'm going to put my best effort into it. Therefore, I feel like I have to be proud of it. But we'll see how it turns out. I'm hoping that with the amount of effort I'm putting into it, it'll turn out better than I'm expecting. So what I would take away from the experience is that everyone has a kind heart. I experienced this mostly when I was in Guatemala, and I saw that the way the people treat not only each other, but the way they treated us as tourists. We were warned before going in that we would be called gringas and things like that, which kind of has a negative connotation to it, but not once did I have somebody call me any kind of name. They were nothing but friendly, and it kind of made me realize that if you take a step back and you realize, like, even though they don't have much, they have a lot of heart. And sometimes I think that all the things that we have in America and the privileges we have may not necessarily be privileges, because we end up being alone, because we have so much technology, we don't make time for one another, and we just kind of ignore each other, like when we pass by each other, and it's just, I don't know, it's completely different. And I'm realizing that when life is more simple, you are kind of more happy. So I've tried to step back, even though I'm not completely disconnected from social media and things like that. I've been trying to appreciate the people that I have in my life more, and keep those connections going, because I've noticed things kind of dwindling down. So yeah, overall, I just think that everybody is kind-hearted deep down inside, and it just takes a little bit of effort from one another to make sure that we connect. So that's a little bit about my trip to Guatemala. Hope you enjoy it.